Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
Hey, what's up, Top Rope Nation? Episode 239 of your favorite pro wrestling podcast. My name's Ryan Drosty. We've got the trio back together, reuniting tonight. Justin Joint, the last time you were on Top Rope Nation, at least on the flagship show, January 20th. So welcome back. Yeah, you were on, of course, our classic show for Patreon with the 92 Rumble after that. But those people that only tune into the main feed, they haven't heard from you in a while. How you doing?
Well, I'm little under the weather, trying to nip it in the butt as quickly as possible because I'm supposed to have some special guests over this weekend.
Yes.
The Drosties. So
the Drosty family.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can make it. You got 48 hours, sir.
Yeah. So just to warn all the listeners, I'm a little medicated. Just a little medicated.
Aren't we all?
Wait a second. Are you saying this might end up like the WrestleMania preview show we did a couple of years ago where you were slurring your speech?
I believe that was SummerSlam, and that was a different kind of medicine.
I can't remember what the show was. SummerSlam. All I remember is you were tanked by the end of the show. That was a good one.
I was right. I was slurring, but what I was saying was correct. I do remember that.
Yeah. Kyle, now you have been running all over that house getting ready for tonight, and we were scared. I didn't know 10 minutes before you went on the air you might not be able to make it. So how are you doing?
I never miss a shot, Ryan Trosty. You know that.
That's true.
But yes, Papa Shango put a curse on my daughter, apparently.
I was going to use that reference.
She's gonna puke. But no, I'm here. And by the way, I just want to point out when I did the 1, 2, 3, not a painted nail, but I slammed it in the door several weeks ago, and it hasn't gone away.
Did the Four Horsemen do that to you?
They did, yes. They did. At a gas station, actually.
Oh, God. Man, well, we're under the weather a little bit. We're playing hurt, maybe. Maybe some puke will fly in from the sides. We never know what's going to happen tonight on Top Rope Nation. But
anything can happen in Top Rope Nation.
We appreciate you for joining us live or on demand. We're streaming live, of course, on all the video platforms tonight. And thank you for tuning in the podcast feed if you're listening on Friday morning. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We had a great edition of AEW Dynamite last night. We're going to talk about Keith Lee's debut with the company, Switchblade Jay White's debut, some great matches. And by the way, if you watched AEW Dynamite last night, I have to give a shout out. I'm going to put it up here on the screen on the video overlay to our guy, Michael Jenkinson, who was on the show the last time Justin was on, the best Royal Rumble entrance of all time back in January. He was front and center, halfway back in center, I should say, as Dynamite went on the air, a massive Top Rope Nation sign right there in Atlantic City. That was Michael. Thank you for getting us on the air. So if you guys were watching and you saw it, there it was. He got it up a few more times during the show as well, but we noticed it. We were doing our playback show, watching the show live with several Top Rope Nation listeners. If you want to join us in the future, get in the Facebook group. But right as they go on the air, we're like, is that a Top Rope Nation sign? Holy shit, it is a Top Rope Nation sign. We didn't find out it was Michael until later in the night. So very cool.
And there he is in the chat, by the way.
Yeah, I got to open the chat room. There he is. Fresh haircut. That's right. Kyle got a haircut today. I got a haircut today. We're all looking good. Justin, you recently got a haircut.
True.
So, Michael, thank you again. We got Alan in the chat.
It makes
been
you feel
waiting all
good.
day.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It's like a new pair of socks.
Aaron Graham checking in. Get your Top Rope Nation signs up. That's right. Who is going next week to AEW? We got to keep this train rolling. We need some more Top Rope Nation signs on the air. So that was super cool.
Make it like the Washington State flag at College Game Day. Wasn't that 10 straight years or something? Somebody brought that thing to the pregame show?
I immediately, we're talking 5 minutes into Dynamite. I'm getting text messages from numerous people. Is that a Top Rope Nation sign I just saw? Absolutely. That's our guy, Michael Jenkinson. So, if you noticed it, let us know. But very cool moment for the show. And we're going to break it all down here in just a second. Of course,
Thank you,
guys,
Michael.
yes. If you are listening for the first time, welcome. If you're a longtime listener, make sure you're subscribed wherever you're getting your podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. It helps us out a lot. YouTube numbers have been ticking up a little bit in recent weeks, so we appreciate that. And later in the show, we'll be talking about another great way that you can help us out, and that is by becoming a patron of the show. More on that here in a little bit. So we're definitely going to start off with Dynamite. I think right off the bat, I can just talk about the ratings, which came in just a couple of hours ago. It was a huge night for AEW. Of course, big promotion for this show. You had the Texas Death Match main event with Hangman Page and Lance Archer. You had the Forbidden Door being teased by Tony Khan, and it worked. The show gets 1.129 million viewers, number one on the night on cable in the 18 to 49 demo, 0.41. It topped the Olympics. It topped 2 NBA regular season basketball games. Kyle, your instant reaction to hearing this about the ratings last night?
I really wasn't surprised. It felt like there was a lot of intrigue about the show simply due to what was going on in social media throughout the week with the tease of the surprise. I think for what a wrestling TV show should usually be, it checked all the boxes. Fast-paced. Every segment felt like someone or something got over. There was great wrestling on the back end, and you had multiple surprises. It was a fast 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We said it last night. I thought it was the best episode of Dynamite in months. This was their highest rating since late September, you said?
Yeah.
This was probably the best Dynamite since that period.
I mean, certainly the best since Winter's Coming in mid-December, almost 2 months. And, there's been a lot of talk back and forth about their ratings in recent weeks. So it was up significantly this week from where it has been. Last week we were at 954,000 viewers. That was down from 1.1 million the week before. And so it dropped, percentage-wise fairly significantly last week. And, of course, all the critics were out on that. And we said on this program, probably too much is being made of this. We're talking about a difference of a little over 100,000 viewers week in and week out. But they definitely rebounded this week in a major, major way. Justin, any quick reaction to the ratings news?
Cool.
Were you expecting that? 1.1 million?
No, I don't know. It's a good rating. Good number.
It is so to Justin's point. It's like really hard to predict the ratings.
Yeah,
a lot. I'll say this at the risk of offending someone. What do you guys think of the Olympics? I don't watch the Olympics.
I stopped watching the Olympics a long time ago, especially the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, it's a bunch of sports that America's no good at, and I don't know anything about.
I was just talking about this with my wife actually over dinner tonight, and we were like, we haven't watched this at all this year. And normally we'll watch it a little bit. I definitely watch the Summer Olympics more than the Winter Olympics, but I haven't seen a minute of this year's yet. Yeah. So, Justin, let me ask you this, since you're not a numbers guy. I know you're a guy when it comes to what the arenas and the venues look like. So this was kind of an iconic venue, Atlantic City Boardwalk Hall. There have been legendary events there over the years in the wrestling world. Of course, WrestleManias 4 and 5. I mean, how excited were you to see a show emanating from there, and how did you think it looked on television?
I was pretty excited, although with the way they light the seats normally outside of Arthur Ashe, I didn't think it probably really look all that different. In fact, the only times you could really tell where it was sometimes, I think, opposite the stage, kind of way up in the rafters. Some of the lighting, you could tell it was that venue. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, I was hoping for some yellow carpets and maybe for somebody to give a brutal backdrop to Virgil on the stairs, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I thought that too. Like either when you were seeing it from far away, or sometimes they would have a shot like kind of low looking up, and then you could see like the roof of the arena is pretty iconic looking. It's a big arch basically all the way down. That's when I think back to the WrestleManias that were there. That's what I remember is that kind of arch ceiling with the colors across there and everything. And I know like between matches, They had some spotlights going, and you could really notice that unique ceiling in the venue. But otherwise, you're right. It looked pretty much like most of their normal shows. But I was pretty excited for this when they announced it, that they were doing a show from there a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm. Best wrestling show I've ever seen in that building.
It was better than WrestleMania 4 and 5. I agree 100%. So, yeah, I mean, we had Jay White, we had Keith Lee. I guess we could lead with either of these because probably Keith Lee is the bigger story for most of the people, at least in my social media timelines. And so, I mean, we were very high on his match with Isaiah Cassidy last night, if you were with us on the live watch along and playback. And, there's been kind of, it's odd because I've seen some mixed things on social media today about it, but to me, it was all positives. He got a massive reaction from the crowd. The match was worked exactly like a Keith Lee match should be worked. Him throwing Cassidy across the ring 10 feet in the air. I didn't think it dragged on too long. I might have had him win a little bit quicker, but that's really nitpicky. Overall, I mean, he was basically dominant. And so I thought it was fantastic, Kyle Ross. How about you?
I wanted to hear what Justin said because I was going to take this in a bizarre direction.
I just to add to all the things they got right, he wasn't wearing some stupid outfit that Vince put him in to try and cover up his body or something.
Yeah. Did you guys? I agree, and we're going to talk a lot about the body because I know that was a big talking point on social media. Some of the real tastemakers in this industry said some things in their reviews, and there was some blowback on that on at least my Twitter timeline throughout the day. But did you guys see like Sean Waltman tweet after the show? He was like, he's like, I watched that bump Cassidy took, and it reminded me of this bump I took in a house show match against Ahmed Johnson. And somebody found it and sent it to him. And because Waltman was like, no offense. He's like, I think this bump was crazier. He's like, I remember my foot hitting the turnbuckle. And WWE's a bigger ring. And then they showed the video, and Waltman was like, I guess it turns out it wasn't a bigger bump. My foot just kind of hit the rope, and it was almost across the ring. But that's crazy that somebody found that. And then
I didn't see that.
That might be the only good thing about the internet.
Yeah, and it's also crazy that Sean Waltman remembered something that happened in 1995.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
More impressive, yes.
Love Waltman. There's talk that he wants to work again. AEW should absolutely have him work against Sammy Guevara.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah,
Dude.
very nice.
Absolutely. But so we should talk about this Keith Lee. And this, was he too heavy? Both Meltzer and Keller made a point to say that. And first off, this guy has been pretty sick.
Yeah.
Recently. I mean, let's not forget about that. He's pretty sick, so he hasn't been able to do any training. Is that how you want him to work, like a more traditional big man? Let's throw that around the horn.
Definitely on the debut, where there was no reason for him to have a big competitive match, and with the way this roster is as far as body types, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't have him play the role of the big man. They're kind of in desperate need of it. Was that look towards me, Kyle?
No,
Okay.
The old Kyle weird faces have struck again. No,
He's just seeing his daughter vomiting over in the corner.
yeah. She's got a puke. No, I agreed with everything you said. For the record, I apologize for that face.
No, I was going to say the same thing too. I think it depends on the opponent. Yeah. Obviously, I think with this kind of dynamic with Cassidy, absolutely, you want to see him working strong, throwing dudes all over the place. It's what makes him unique. I think his body type is what makes him unique too, and I think probably this might be the road you're going to go down with that too. But I thought those criticisms were completely unfounded.
Yeah, I just think that I think there's maybe a segment of the wrestling fan base that is like, and first of all, he does need, just like everybody needs to watch his weight. It's not good for his knees and his back if he puts on too much weight. But I think, the Keith Lee that we saw in the Indies maybe 4 or 5 years ago, he's 37. That was 4 or 5 years ago. It's a long time. And he probably shouldn't be working like that. He should be working. To me, Keith Lee's role in AEW, and we're probably going to talk about this a lot, is the role that Braun Strowman should have been in WWE. The old Andre the Giant role.
Yeah.
The special attraction. He should be the buddy of the top babyface. Like, he should be a guy who, if Hangman Page needs somebody, he could do a tag team main event with him on TV. I think, I just think that, like, to me, Lee's size is kind of the attraction. Again, he doesn't want to get too big, but I don't get the sense that he was too big at all.
No, I mean,
No.
I'd have to look at pictures from him when he showed up in NXT, but I thought he looked great.
Yeah.
And, as Ryan said, I don't know why you want to make him look like everybody else.
Isn't that supposed to be attraction to pro wrestling? Like, historically, is the different body types, and he looks like a guy you wouldn't see every day on the street, that is that athletic anyways. And so I think it's exactly what makes him so impressive is he's that athletic, yet he's that big. That's why people want to see him. This is why he'll be a draw for this promotion if they continue to book him, in a good way and better than WWE did.
Yeah, and obviously you can't, do that match last night every week or every other week for like a year. You do have to evolve. But the key with AEW, and we mentioned this, all three of us, during the watch along last night, AEW has a lot more guys on its roster that are conducive to doing that kind of style of match that's going to get Keith Lee over. They have a ton of guys who, sorry, gang, just, suck it up and you're looking at the lights tonight against Keith Lee. Whereas you can tell, and that's the issue with main roster WWE, no one's going to want to do that.
Yeah. So
our chat room, by the way, was
blowing up. I'm trying to keep up with all these comments, which is a good problem to have.
But it is very similar to my Twitter timeline all day, which was extraordinarily negative about towards Dave and Wade's comments. And I like Dave and Wade, for the record. I found, we're going to talk about this at the tail end of the show, the Elimination Chamber stuff, and I got a show in the works. I found a tremendous Wade Keller joke from 2008 that I'm going to use, for the record. Maybe one of the best jokes ever written in a wrestling newsletter. But, I just thought, like, so you look at that debut and to, like, have that take, it was just off base.
So I missed it. Did they give any reasons other than he just looks too heavy? I mean, was that basically the gist of it?
Here, let me try to find the take here. Let me see who kind of ripped it.
I mean, I like both of them a lot too. Obviously, Dave and Wade. I've written for both of them. Wade most recently, but they're both great guys. Two of the smartest minds in wrestling, which is in the wrestling media, which makes it so surprising they would have that take. Because as I watched that, I can't believe anyone would have anything negative to say about that segment and that match, especially those guys. There's often this criticism with wrestling fans that they can never be satisfied and they want to nitpick everything. That's how that comes off to me. And you wouldn't expect that from those two, that you would think that they would recognize a great segment for what it was rather than, body shaming or critiquing something that weren't really any critiquing, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to read verbatim what Wade wrote. So the debut encapsulated why WWE grew frustrated with Lee and cut him, but also why it was so difficult for them to do so and why they gave him so many chances. He's so talented and so charismatic and has an undeniable connection with fans and is athletically gifted. He's also carrying way, way more weight than he ought to for what he's known for, and it affects his cardio and his agility, which is what made him so special and gain acclaim early on the indie scene and stand out in NXT. I'm not sure I agree with that at all. If he doesn't switch to treating his body like a serious professional athlete ought to, I think AEW is going to grow frustrated with him, as those rooting for him in WWE did over time. Private Party had to create all the movement in that match, and they bumped like crazy to make Lee look as good as possible. End quote.
Is that not how every big man versus smaller man in the history of professional wrestling is? The smaller guy makes him look good?
Yes, thank you. And, this is, to me, as I thought about this, I think there's some people that might be in denial what a lot of wrestling fans want. And we talked about different and unique. In our own Facebook group, there are a lot of people saying, what does this Undisputed Era bring to the table? AEW's already got a bunch of people like that. Keith Lee definitely brings something unique to the table. And the key is, okay, yeah, any little guy can take a huge bump like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The key with Keith Lee is it looks very believable. Like, if Cassidy took that same bump from a guy, it would just look phony.
Marco Stunt.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But by the way,
O'Reilly.
how great would it be if Keith Lee chucked Marco Stunt? But
into the 10th row.
Yeah, I just like, to me, it's like, okay, fine. Yeah, Private Party was creating the movement, but I think people want what Keith Lee's bringing to the table, which is just being a big dude who chucks guys around.
I would just like, even going back to his WWE days, Wade talking about how the people backstage were frustrated with his weight. It's like, what fan was looking at him being like, nope, don't believe it. It's not for me.
He got the two most impressive things he did in WWE, Keith Lee, is getting over at Survivor Series and the Rumble with no main roster TV, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, people just react remember Lesnar?
Yep.
When Keith Lee came out?
Oh, that's a big boy.
Yes.
Yep.
This guy came out and was just naturally over. People just looked at him and said, oh my God, I'm into this. They didn't say, oh, you know what? I think he needs to lose weight. His cardio could be in trouble. Nobody said that. And yes, again, he can't like balloon up. We don't want him to, but
just imagine saying that. The reason he didn't get over in WWE is he was too big.
That's lunacy. That's just lunacy. Like, what chances did he get in WWE, by the way? Yes, he was given, like, the two chances he was given with no build whatsoever, he got over.
Yep.
And there was no follow-up.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that, like, it was his weight. It was stupidity that didn't get him over in WWE. Stupidity. By the people in charge.
Let me ask you this question. So I saw this going around on Twitter today, and I had a talk with one of my good friends about this question. So someone had put out there, and we might get some differing takes on this, that someone had put out on Twitter that Keith Lee was already more over in AEW than he ever was with WWE. What do you think of that take?
I don't,
not so much.
You don't want to judge that off of a debut,
right?
At all. I mean, I'd say, the apex of his WWE/AEW career was Royal Rumble by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was honestly probably more impressive than last night because he was doing it with Brock Lesnar. Yeah. Lesnar sold for him. So, yeah, I think that's way soon to judge. And, let's turn the corner to somebody that everybody should be able to dump on. This fucking Mark Madden. Okay, Mark, I'm sorry that you got a podcast with the greatest professional wrestler of all time who should probably have a million awesome stories to tell, and your podcast gained no traction. Okay, I'm sorry about that. By the way, Ryan, it's my understanding that the top tier patrons for us, Top Rope Nation, if you choose to go to that level, you could get some podcast training from yourself, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, maybe
Mark Madden should join.
Maybe Mark Madden should be a Hall of Fame patron of Top Rope Nation and get some lessons from Ryan Trosty, because this guy is an ass. Okay, now to bring everyone up to speed and clue everyone in, he's JYD light. Okay, first of all, Keith Lee is not the same style of performer as JYD. They basically have one thing in common. I think we all know what that is. And imagine also being comparing someone to JYD and thinking that's an insult. The junkyard Dogs run in Mid-South is more impressive than all but 10 runs any wrestler has ever had in the history of this business. Yeah. So, that was just idiotic. Dave, Wade, I didn't agree with them. I respect them. Mark Madden, okay. I mean, his comments would be like if I, saw him doing commentary on Nitro and said, "Oh, he's Yokozuna light."
Yeah, Adam in the chat. This is Mark Madden that was in WCW, correct? Dude, that is so bad. You're doing a podcast with not only one of the biggest names in the history of pro wrestling, but also one of the greatest talkers in the history of pro wrestling, and nobody talks about your show.
No.
What does that say?
Wow. And yeah, he's just been desperate for attention. I don't know. It's not as pathetic as Bischoff going on Sean Ross Sapp yesterday for the ratings talk. By the way, we've been critical of people in the some people in the wrestling media in this program so far. I'd like to 100% throw my support behind Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com. He's been dealing with some of the real jack-offs of this business. And I use that, Bischoff I mentioned, and then, not someone who's in the business, but is on Twitter, unfortunately, that the hideous junkie who I have called for multiple times. There should be a cyberbullying campaign to get him off Twitter.
I don't know how he does. I mean, he typically makes these people look like fools, but if you ever check the replies to Sean on Twitter, it is insane the stuff people say to him. And I've gotten some of that before, like to 1% of the level that he does, and I get hot. So I don't know how he does it. So props for sure. But yeah, he pretty much put that user in his place. So yeah, agree.
But all right, I mean, as far as Dynamite, we liked Keith Lee. Jay White? That was an odd debut.
Yeah, because there wasn't much to it, Justin.
Well, I liked the immediate introduction of you just see the back of the leather jacket. I thought that was cool, and then it was just all downhill from there, where you don't see his face until the last second when he just cracks some joke about an earring, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that a very odd introduction.
So did you see Tony Khan say, "Well, I feel I misused the term Forbidden Door, so I went out and I got Jay White"?
Mm-hmm.
Do we think Jay White? I mean, he's going to be on Rampage, right? They said that. I heard that correctly.
Yes.
Okay. Do we think that it might just be for that, and he's not going to be like anything long term?
I think he'll be around. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if
not
only
weekly,
maybe
but
yeah, he'll make a few appearances, but I don't think it'll be anything of significance.
Okay. What do you guys think about Tony and so many other people treating this Forbidden Door almost?
You cut out for me. I didn't hear all of that.
Yeah, what was it?
Oh no, there's vomit on his cables. There's vomit on his cables. No, I don't know. I don't know what
black
he said.
Ooze coming from his new haircut.
Kyle will be back in here in just a second. No, I see Ryan in the chat. It felt like we have no idea how long you'll be here, so just go jump in. Yeah, pretty much. I thought it was a nice surprise. I think that I saw Keith Lee and Switchblade thrown out early in the day on Twitter. Fightful Select, props to them again. Sean's site. They had a report out in the afternoon that Keith Lee was basically for sure coming in, but he couldn't confirm whether it was for Dynamite. But I think a lot of people were expecting him to be on Dynamite. And so Keith, still got that mass pop. It was awesome. Jay White, I wasn't expecting as much. I thought it was really cool to see him. I think he'll be around for a little while. I don't think long-term every week or anything like that. So... yeah, let's see. Ryan says maybe the shovel broke 22.
I hope Kyle gets back here, because I liked where I think he was going with that question about how everybody interprets the use of Forbidden Door is what I'm assuming he's getting at, as far as because I think he brought in Jay White because Forbidden Door earlier meant somebody who is with another company, signed with another company, not some free agent that was just coming in. And so if you go by that, we still didn't get that in this episode, because he had said they're going to walk through the Forbidden Door and he's going to slam it shut. Well, Jay White is still going to be going to work with New Japan and Impact. And Keith Lee was a free agent. So I am not one of those people who's going to get worked up about the usage of Forbidden Door. I just like seeing new wrestlers pop up on shows every once in a while. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a cool kind of phrase when they first started using it, but I think it's overused now. I think you should drop it. And I can see, yeah, when you start trying to say, what does Forbidden Door really mean? And yeah, to me, it is you're in another promotion, you come over, you're working interpromotional stuff, which, again, I guess Jay White does qualify for that. And I saw in the chat, for people who aren't familiar with Jay White, what can you say? He's been the leader of the Bullet Club, IWGP Heavyweight Champion, IWGP Intercontinental Champion in New Japan. Basically, after most of the guys that were in New Japan with the Bullet Club started AEW, Jay White kind of picked it up over there as the top guy with the Bullet Club. So yeah, he's risen to stardom, after the exit of Omega, for example. So there you are, Kyle. You're back.
Is that what the internet does to me? I say one slightly negative thing about AEW, they cut me off.
Get this. Tony Khan has all power, man.
Wow.
All power. So what were you saying?
I forget. I don't know. Something about Jay White.
I brought it up because I liked where I thought you were going was how everybody interprets the usage of Tony's whole Forbidden Door thing.
Yeah. So I thought it had sort of morphed at this point into like a gimmick where the Forbidden Door, it wasn't literal. It was just like somebody's debuting. Like that's the way I take the Forbidden Door. I don't take it as like, oh my God, it's this like previously like unthinkable, unconceivable debut is about to happen. I just think I just thought like Forbidden Door is almost like a gimmick in AEW.
That's how it should be looked at now.
Yeah.
While you're away, what I brought up was that when it was initially brought up, it was all about people from other companies working together. That's what the whole Forbidden Door was, with the Good Brothers and Omega going to Impact. But I'm totally fine with it just meaning basically somebody new coming in.
Yeah, I am
like you said, it's just a gimmick now.
Yeah, agree. So, yeah, Jay White, Kyle, you so last night when Jay White was on there was some comments in our playback watch along, because several years ago you weren't the biggest fan of Jay White, but look, this guy has improved significantly since then. So do you want to give your updated take on Jay White?
Yeah, he has improved, and it'll be interesting to see just how much he does with AEW. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not convinced that he's like some permanent fixture there at all. I don't like Tony almost made it sound like, yeah, I screwed up, didn't want to let the fans down with the Forbidden Door term, so I went out and got somebody to appear on the show that hit it, and he's going to be there, because they taped Rampage the same night. So we'll see with that. It was so like in a show that was just really hot. It was, the fact that Jay White was on seemed, kind of down the list of talking points on Dynamite, and that probably should have been the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a loaded show. We got those debuts. We got 2 really good matches.
Yes.
We got the tag match with CM Punk tagging up with Jon Moxley against FTR. And we were saying, as we were watching it live, like, imagine just a couple of years ago thinking, hey, we're going to see the Revival wrestle Punk and Ambrose. Never, in a million years. It made it so cool. And that was a fantastic match. And then as the event went on, we're talking like, oh, we still have that big world title main event to come, and they've barely promoted it at all. And that was one of the qualms we had with the show as it was ongoing, because they didn't really have any hype videos or anything to get you ready for that. It was just kind of there in the main event slot. But holy hell, Kyle, once they got to the match, more than delivered, my friend.
Well, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Sure.
This is exactly why we've said numerous times where we're going to give Tony the benefit of the doubt when it comes to certain kind of bookings, because I think all three of us, when it started looking like it was going to be this Hangman Lance Archer feud, we were pretty low on it. Mainly because we thought that's what the direction for Revolution was going to be. But holy shit, this ended up being freaking perfect for Hangman and Lance.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever Hangman bleeds, I start cheering for him more. Like, I mean, he shouldn't bleed in every title match, but he should probably bleed in most of them. I think. And to Justin's point, we need to see more Hangman Page.
Yeah.
We were talking about during the watch along. Since that title win, I don't know if Tony's playing a long game with it. He doesn't want to like go too heavy and burn people out on what he wants to be a long-term babyface champion. But it just doesn't feel like he's the centerpiece of the show / promotion like he should yet. And that's not his fault. We all talked about this. Actually, we talked about this, Ryan, you and I, on last week's flagship.
Yeah. No, like of the AEW World Champion so far, he has, at least on the weekly shows, been positioned lower than all of them, I think. He hasn't felt as important since winning the title. He's had some big matches, but when you look at Jericho and you look at Moxley and, of course, Omega, they felt like more of a integral part of the show, I think.
Yeah. I mean, he had 2 classic matches, obviously, against Bryan Danielson, but it's sort of like those
Everything in
happen.
between.
Yeah, it's the in-between. It's like they happen, and then he's not, but when they're not happening, he's not really doing anything. No hype videos, no other people talking about it. It's very different than what we kind of grew up expecting a transcendent babyface champion to be, or at least someone you wanted to be a transcendent babyface champion.
While we're here, real quick, just to plug our watch along, in that people really need to come join us when we watch Dynamite together. And it'll be hard to duplicate, but the sound that Kyle made when Hangman hit that clothesline to finish the match was just amazing. that buckshot lariat off the referee, that was incredible.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, yeah, because we were all joking when Lambert took the ropes out. We're like, well, how is he going to do the buckshot lariat now?
Yeah.
And he did. That was great.
Yeah, if you guys, real quick, if you guys are confused when we're talking about playback and you don't know what the hell we're talking about, it is an app that is similar to Twitch. So, if you go on Twitch, you watch people play video games, you see the game, and then their faces like down in the corner superimposed talking over it. It is like that with live sports. The only way it's in beta mode right now, so the only way you can watch along, we can't send out the link like on Twitter publicly, but we can post it in our closed off Facebook group. So we always promote it, but you have to get either in the Facebook group that's in the link is here in the description, or on our Patreon page. And then you can access the room and you can literally watch the TBS stream of Dynamite in this room with us. We're superimposed over the video. It's so much fun. There's a chat room. Everyone gets involved. We'll be doing it again next Wednesday night. Join us. Go ahead, Kyle.
No, I think that's pretty much.
Okay.
I was gonna go to a different place. I was gonna say
go ahead.
The only other negative I had was that Jade AQA, that mishap they had towards the finish. I don't know what that was. I thought Jade still came across as a star in the end, but that was a curious thing to see on national television.
I thought you were going to go to the 5-star makeout session that we got to start the show.
What a beauty this MJF is. So, I mean, I guess, by the way, that they are going to Cole and Hangman, too. Yeah. That was something.
Tony's got some work to do there, because, as you've mentioned before, Cole doesn't feel like a AEW main event yet.
Yeah, and I got to say, I know that it doesn't count because it was a lights-out match. If WWE did something like that, where a pay-per-view title contender lost on the way to the we would criticize it, and I'm not sure I see why you would do that, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, they teased MJF in the opening segment of the show that he wanted a world title shot, and he feels more natural to me. I mean, that the week after Full Gear, that was my prediction that they would go in that direction, and I know, like they got the ranking systems and everything, but yeah, I mean, MJF, to me, he feels like he should be getting the shot. It makes sense. Heel face dynamic. I think the only other thing is that if you don't want him to lose and you want Hangman to keep on, it makes you have a little difficult situation there if you want a clean finish on your pay-per-view, your quarterly pay-per-view. But he seems to be the logical, contender.
I agree, but we sort of were talking about that last week, where I just don't think they want to. But, I mean, if MJF loses the Punk, he's losing. Still, I mean, are they going to have MJF beat Punk again?
I think that would be the logical step to get to him being the number one contender. I don't think anybody truly loses in that scenario. MJF getting 2 out of 3.
Oh, so you think like they'll do like a 3-match series, MJF?
Yeah.
Punk? Okay.
Yeah. Which, I like, I mean, like I said, I don't feel like Cole is there for the main event yet. I just don't know what their other options were. I don't think there's any chance Cole gets the title. Hangman is due for a long run. I think our next AEW champion is probably going to be MJF, Punk, or Danielson. Maybe Keith Lee.
Yeah.
I think they've got MJF earmarked for it. Now, I think, they also keep teasing that 2024 thing. That's going to be turned into a storyline. Obviously, that's 2 years from now. So it's...
Wait, what's the 2024 thing?
You know how he keeps talking, his contract year's 2024.
Oh, gotcha.
And he's like, I'm going to be the hottest free agent in 2024. They're going to turn that into a storyline for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know what the obvious... I don't know if we want to put a bow on Dynamite and move on.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious declarative statement I have yet to hear about last night or read on Twitter. Dynamite was better than the Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah. We said that on playback. Yeah.
Okay. But think about that though. Let's take a step back and analyze that statement. The Royal Rumble is like the WWE's second biggest pay-per-view of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you rather watch? The 2 hours of television from last night? And again, maybe it's apples to oranges because, pay-per-view versus TV show. But, it had a lot of talking in the first half last night, but it was good talking, I thought. When people are like, I don't like talking on my wrestling show. What are you talking about? Okay, in the Crockett era TV shows, okay, primetime wrestling, you'd fast forward the squash matches and you'd want to listen to the promos. From the greats like Flair and Dusty, or you'd want to listen to Gorilla and Bobby do their shtick in between those hideous Iron Mike Sharp matches from MSG they were showing on prime time. So, you don't want to hear bad talking, is what you think. And I agree with that. You don't want to hear 20-minute promos of, I am the game. You don't want to hear that. But good talking is good. And I thought the first hour flew by. So, those 2 coma-inducing Rumble matches, that's 2 hours right there. Who would want to watch that versus last night's show? Or a Reigns-Rollins match with a non-finish that's not leading anywhere? A Lashley-Lesnar match where the outcome is almost certainly going to be undone 9 days from now?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Dewdrop? That dud of a match?
So the flaw in your argument is that, as we've stated, this was probably the best Dynamite in months, maybe going back to September, definitely December. I would rather take any average Dynamite show that we've had for the past 3 months over what the WWE has been delivering.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Argue.
Yeah, especially the Royal Rumble, which was even by the WWE's sorry standard, a bad show. Do any of us think that at the end of the year, and Lord knows we've got a long time to go, that the 2022 Royal Rumble won't be receiving votes for worst major show? That show, that show reeked, bro.
I think I said at the time, it was the lowest scores we've ever had from our followers on Twitter on the poll in any pay-per-view ever in the last several years. Very bad stuff. And for the second biggest show of the year for the WWE, we've been critical on Dynamite. Yeah, it's up and down, but even the weeks where it's down, it's still more entertaining. They can't have a show like they had this week every single week, but what they do good is they build to these shows. They make you want to tune in, not just for one reason, for multiple reasons. And WWE rarely does that for their television. They might give you one thing to tune into, but they don't build these shows at all. They just expect you to tune in out of routine. And that's the biggest problem with that company right now. It's they expect you to tune in. They do nothing to garner your interest. They're relying solely on the routine of longtime viewers, many of whom, like ourselves, do not tune in live anymore. No. After the fact, catch the highlights kind of thing.
WWE television has stunk for 20 years.
They just take their fan base completely for granted.
Yeah,
completely for granted. It started with the end of WCW. If you like wrestling and you wanted to watch a national promotion, that was basically your only thing to watch. And they got so lazy over the last couple of decades. And I think they do view AEW somewhat as competition, but not to their level, and they're still lazy.
I'll tell you what, it's going to get real interesting when they run out of their nostalgia acts to throw out there because it's coming and it's coming quick.
Yeah, I mean, can you sign Goldberg to another deal?
Oh God.
I mean, I know you guys don't like Bill, but like, just like physically, like, I mean, I think it's hurting him a lot to just do these matches. Like,
He does
I mean,
nothing to warrant the matches. Doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I know you don't like the guy. Okay,
No, it's not because I don't like him. I'm talking about just how he's lost matches. How he's lost matches over the last couple of years.
It is, okay, to your point, maybe this is where you're going. It's kind of preposterous how he just randomly pops up when like a one-off title match is needed. He's like,
that's what I mean.
You're next. And it's like,
he doesn't warrant a title shot.
I guess he's next. Okay. Well, he did beat Lashley. Well, shoot. Are we going to talk about something before? Because I was going to say this would be like a decent transition to the Big E thing, but
I'm ready.
Are we going to talk about Tony Khan not running for Congress first? Or?
Well, I mean, if you are concerned that Tony Khan might be distracted in the coming months, there was a false report circulating on Twitter. I mean, all the major websites picked it up because Pro Football Talk put it out that Tony Khan was going to be running for Congress, and it was fake. Someone apparently filed fake paperwork last September for a candidacy for the United States House of Representatives in Florida. And so if you're watching the video stream here, unfortunately, we're going to have to wait on seeing this. This is not going to happen. Speaker Tony Khan anytime soon. Tony emphatically shut down those rumors on Twitter today.
Yes, with a Tommy Rich Eddie Gilbert reference, by the way, sending Mike Florio into a tizzy on YouTube, I'm sure.
What's he talking about?
Yeah. By the way, my favorite tweet on this situation, this was great. This is at Aaron Like the Car tweeted this. Attack ad voice. Can you trust a man who won't tell Cody Rhodes no to stand up for you in Washington?
You just imagine the super PACs forming now.
I know. Oh, God. Can you imagine?
Do you really want this American nightmare?
Yeah. He doesn't even understand what the forbidden door is.
Oh man, that's bad. All right, let's go transition to this new topic you had, Kyle, on the show notes.
So Big E. So we talked about Wade Keller earlier. Wade Keller had a report, and it kind of mirrors some things we've been talking about here at Top Rope Nation for I don't know, a month or so ago. Ever since he lost the title, maybe even like into the end of his title run. Wade Keller about Big E, quote, I've asked around his people who are really upset, with the rug being pulled out from under him. One person just described him as a magnificent human being who doesn't deserve this treatment, end quote. Gang, if you're still on the fence about this, I had talked about this, my goodness, a month or so ago in Top Rope Nation Extra. People could check if you're a patron, you could check the archives there. Big E's goose is cooked in terms of being a main eventer in this promotion. It's quite sad, but if you know the effort that it took just to get him like that one shitty title run, like you'd be astounded. And it's Vince. Vince just, he doesn't like him as a performer. And, having him move back to SmackDown and just being in a tag team, I mean, that tells you all you need to know, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've been very critical of how that title reign ended. How they didn't protect him whatsoever. They gave him no chance, moving forward, really, as far as how WWE operates. And it's so mind-blowing when you look at this company who rarely has these feel-good moments where the crowd just eats it up. Like, they hardly ever have those moments anymore. And they totally had it with Big E. Like, you'd have to be completely insane to have not followed, like the social media discussion that happened the night he won the title and how, like, universally across the industry, people were praising that, like so much good publicity. Very much in the same way as when Kofi Kingston won the title, on how deserving of it he was. And we saw what happened to Kofi Kingston. And here we have another New Day member. Same thing. He's going to lose the title and go right back to where he was. They don't create new stars. It's the same old, same old.
Yep. They did nothing on television to make him look or feel like a true world champion, while outside of the ring, he was doing everything that made him look like a true world champion.
Yeah.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. And it's just, the comment was, why would you beat him at day one? Well, I'll tell you why they beat him like that is because they just don't want him in the main event picture anymore. That's why. It's like, why would you beat the champion in a 5-way? You could do rematches. Well, not if you don't want to do rematches. You're not going to do it.
Which is asinine because they have no main eventers. It's so just the same thing over and over.
And I have a sneaking suspicion that it might even get even more dire on top, man. I just have a sneaking suspicion about that.
What do you mean?
I just think that they don't have any more main eventers coming up.
Gotcha.
Like who's going to be a main eventer on the pike? I don't know. I mean, it's weird. I mean, you know what I was thinking the other day, actually, because it was funny. Remember we talked about last week, Ryan, how odd it was, the timing of Fox really wanting Rousey.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have, like, they should be thrilled with the star power they get relative to USA and Raw. What are you doing with Roman Reigns and Lesnar after WrestleMania? You can't just keep doing that match. And if they're going their separate ways, who is like, how are you going to have them? Who's going to be feuding with them? You have to come up with 2 people worthy of feuding with them.
And herein lies the problem with the brand split.
And I mean, and like whoever loses, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
I don't know. Something's rotten in Denmark there, I think.
Yeah.
That's all I think. I don't know.
Do you think that, I don't know what the status of his contract is right now, but do you think the victory with Big E had anything to do with the morale backstage, specifically with him and another New Day member before that happened? I think you brought this up on Extra months ago.
Big E. So I think Big E's. Yeah, it was just it was a matter of convenience in the sense that, look at the timeline. What happened after it? So they were, they had that Lashley Goldberg program going, and classic wrestling storytelling, even for this frickin' company, says the babyface has to get revenge. If the heel beats up your kid, you can't not get revenge. You look like an idiot if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So Big E beating Lashley when he did allowed Goldberg to beat Lashley in Saudi Arabia. And it also then had Lashley avoid taking the fall in that dumb champion versus champions gimmick they do with Reigns. They're like, oh, well, we'll give it to Big E. It'll be a field. Because didn't they draw like a record low rating too the previous week? It was something real bad. Right, they started pulling all the guns, and they're like, all right, well, Big E's just going to announce he's cashing in tonight. I'm almost positive that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And so it was just like it's like, all right, well, we'll get people interested for this 1 week, and we'll just do a better rating, and that's okay. And then Lashley can lose to Goldberg, and that's okay, but we don't have to put the title on Bill. And then Big E can just whatever, we'll just do whatever with them. People will be happy, but we don't have to try to book them. And he can lose to Reigns at Survivor Series. And then after that, we'll just figure out a way to get the title off Reigns. Or pardon me, off Big E.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think on Extra a couple of months ago, you had hinted at something that was going on behind the scenes with Big E. He was unhappy with WWE.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah. I mean, well, at this point, I mean, my God, would anyone expect anyone from New Day to resign when their deals are up? I mean, I think I think
for sure.
You think, well, yeah. I mean, I guess
I think he's a lifer.
Yeah, he's. I mean, and at his age, I mean, what are you going to do? Yeah. And that's the thing with Owens and Zayn. People needed to realize. I think they probably looked into their souls and realized, you know what, we're not maybe capable of giving the kind of matches that we would want to, or people expect from us in AEW. So we're just, we're getting these big paydays. It's at the end of our runs. Let's just take this, and I'm not going to fault them for that. So you're right. Kofi may just, but man, I mean. If I was like Big E or Xavier, why would you resign?
Yeah, that's what the entire reign felt like me, was their really lame attempt at trying to be like, hey, we gave you the title. You should stick with us.
Stay here.
Yeah.
You're but I mean, about leaving, stay.
Yeah. But I mean, it sounds, from what Wade is hearing and, like what I think any reasonable person could deduce, that was ineffective by the WWE. I mean, if the WWE thinks that title run would convince Big E that WWE is the place for him, it's just, come on, man.
Not only that,
Yeah.
but like, even if you look at it as in like, they did it as a morale booster for the entire roster, it's like, what are they showing everybody? You know, it was basically the same thing as Kofi Kingston. It's like, hey, maybe if you get lucky, if the opportunity presents itself, we'll give you the title. It'll be a meaningless run. And then when we need some nostalgia to take the title from you, we'll just do it in 10 seconds or in a way that just makes you look like nothing, inconsequential.
Yeah. So next week, our plan on the show, and we're going to transition this to our final topic of the night, is we're not going to have a flagship Friday because we're going to be recording on Saturday after Elimination Chamber. So we'll be hitting your feeds a day later next week because we're going to watch the show in Saudi Arabia on Saturday. We're going to do a post show that'll stream live to all the video outlets as always, and then hit the podcast feeds immediately after that. So we've got Elimination Chamber next week in just over 7 days, still called Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia, evidently, after they toyed with a name change. We've
No
got
escape in Germany, though.
No escape in Germany. We've got a mystery woman in the Elimination Chamber match, unless they decide to give it away on Raw, because, you know, this is WWE. Who knows? But as of now, we've got a mystery woman in the Elimination Chamber, guys. Any predictions on who that will be in the Women's Elimination Chamber match? Justin?
Don't know, don't care.
I did like how Rover tweeted that the original silhouette they showed in the graphic made it look like it was Linda McMahon.
Dude, I would be hyped for that. There you go.
Imagine it's time for that last pod to be released and you hear do 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 do. Remember when she was using like that like
the
lame WrestleMania
theme.
era theme?
Yeah.
But real quick, the reason why I don't really care is because Bianca Belair should win to take the title from Becky at WrestleMania. And so to me, the surprise is inconsequential. And if this surprise ends up winning and Bianca ends up getting buried further down the card, it just sucks. It's par for the course for that company.
So there's 3 possible options, I think. Asuka, who was not drafted in the last draft. Was Bailey drafted in the last draft, Ryan Drosty? Do you know that answer?
I do not know.
I actually don't know. Let's Google that right now, shall we? How long has Asuka been out, by the way? My God. She's been gone forever. She lost the title to Rhea Ripley, and I know there was like a 3-way with Charlotte, too, at a paper, but God, it feels like she's been out almost like a year.
Her last match, let me see. I'll get the date on it for you exactly. Asuka's last match was on July 18th.
Oh,
Money in the Bank. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then Bailey is also a free agent. I just Googled that, so it could be her. Alexa, I see in the chat. I see Tim Jensen, our good friend, texting stable. Look, Alexa, shut up. Okay, I hate when you do that. Okay,
You hear it in the background.
yeah. Bliss. It could be Bliss. And then, yes, my idea that I floated just as a half joke on Facebook was Lacey Evans, which I think is a reasonable option because they wanted her. And Justin, if you want to, fall out of your chair, they wanted Lacey Evans in a title match last year at WrestleMania. Imagine if she wins. And like it's her and Beck as a baby face, her going against Becky over like who's the better mother.
Jesus.
I think Asuka's quite likely. I think if I was ranking them in order, I'd go Asuka number 1, and then number 2, maybe Sasha Banks.
No, they brought her back and she's SmackDown. So I don't think it's
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything in WWE.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Like, if they're doing Charlotte and Rousey, like we talked about, I pitched the idea of making that a triple threat, but if they don't do that, I mean, I could see them screwing Bianca and then going with Sasha, doing Sasha and Becky on Raw.
I could see them screwing Bianca in the chamber and trying to draw some heat and seeing if like they can then do like
Mhm.
a 3-way or something. What do you do with Bianca if she's not in the title match though?
I
against
know
Becky?
it'd be terrible. It'd be absolutely terrible. This is WWE we're talking
I,
about. I think
I'll be honest with
Asuka's
you.
likely.
I'm actively rooting for them to do something horrible, just so
I
we
think
can like
Asuka's
make it makes for a better podcast here at Top Rope Nation.
Asuka seems the most likely because she's been cleared. She's been out a long time. Everyone expected her at the Rumble. She wasn't there. I think she's pretty likely. And then you're looking at Sasha. I don't think Alexa Bliss is going to be in it because they're still running these vignettes that she filmed. I think that recently came out. She filmed 9 of them. I don't see her coming back until those are done.
I'll tell you what,
Lacey Evans is possible.
My
for sure.
question to you is: have they filmed a good one?
My God, I doubt it. I doubt
I mean,
it.
those
man.
are
Been bad.
brutal, man.
Horrible.
That
Horrible.
therapist? I mean, talk about collecting a paycheck, man. I mean, this guy don't give a fuck.
I don't think I don't know if Bailey is quite ready to come back yet or not. So if I was picking my top 3, it'd be Asuka, Sasha Banks, and Lacey Evans. One of those 3, I think. Probably in that order, honestly. So we'll see what happens there.
The thing is, surprises usually, like, unless if you're right, they announce it. He is no Dr. Shelby, Ryan Gorman. You're right. But if they keep it a surprise until the show, all of a sudden the odds of the surprise winning, I think, go up. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's how they book. Yeah. We make moments, pal.
Yeah.
Are we all expecting Brock to win?
They make it sound. I mean, again, that was another story that in that same Top Rope Nation Extra that I talked about way back when, where Big E, I said his goose was cooked. I said it's on the table for title unification. And yeah, it was Heyman pushing for it. Obviously, he's got a rooting interest in that scenario.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because you and I talked about this last week. Like the other title match, I can just see Vince, with Shane McMahon and his red face out the window. I could see Vince just saying, well, this other title match sucks. Let's just give them all the titles.
Dude,
and then
go ahead.
And then someone's probably like, well, how are we going to ununify him, Vince? We'll figure it out.
As I look at this card and we're talking about all these past champions, that they kind of gave up on, obviously Kofi, Big E, freaking McIntyre working Madcap Moss. I mean, I know he got a long run with the title, but it was all without the crowds there. Crowds come back. He's not as over as he was prior to the pandemic. I mean, look at how much his stock has fallen too.
Yeah, I don't know I mean, I guess maybe you just heat him up to be a challenger post-Mania.
Yeah, they could definitely do it with him, but I mean,
either way,
Jesus, Madcap Moss.
You talk about this dire scene at the top of the card, post-Mania for WWE. I saw Meltzer wrote in The Observer that the plan, or not plan, but hope, again, we're pushing, is Rock against Reigns at WrestleMania in LA. Is that like the WWE's like new, like, what's the expression I'm looking for when they just they string you along, like this might happen?
The unicorn?
Like like the magic unicorn. Like, is that what it? Oh, maybe next year at Mania, Rock will agree to do this. Maybe his movie schedule will work. Are we convinced that like Rock will ever? I mean, he got hurt the last time, and those directors were like really pissed off. I mean, I know it was some director makes a lot of like, what was it, like Ridley Scott? I mean, he makes shitty movies.
No, but it was less than that, because it was for that horrible Hercules movie.
Yeah,
which I definitely made the mistake of watching.
My God. Wasn't Hercules Hernandez, I'll tell you that much.
Well, what do you think Rock's going to do too? Like, even if it's free on his schedule, like 6 months out or something, this guy's like the highest paid actor in Hollywood. What if some movie studio comes to him like, yeah, we're going to offer you so many millions of dollars to do this movie, and the filming starts during WrestleMania? You think he's going to take WrestleMania?
Yeah, he's like,
I mean, come on.
No, Tinseltown. I got to put over the big dog.
It's going to be hard to nail that one down anytime, because he could get these movie offers 6 months out and change the whole thing again. So,
yeah, I think that's far from like a certain, like people like, oh, it makes so much sense. Rock, Hollywood, he'll do the LA. I don't think that's inked.
Yeah, no, it ain't signed, buddy. It ain't signed right now, pal. It might be the working plan, but plans change. Card subject to change.
Yeah, I mean, he might show up and if he's available and like shoot off one of those flamethrowers again. But yeah,
Kyle. So since we're running a little long here, I don't know how much in depth we're going to get to go into this conversation on the history of the Elimination Chamber. It's something that you have been working on pretty diligently in your free time. You've been talking in the Facebook group about this.
Yeah.
You have been watching all these old Elimination Chamber matches because you want to punish yourself. Your basement has essentially become the Elimination Chamber as you've been getting ready.
Stu Hart's dungeon, I think, is more like it.
So maybe rather than us starting into this discussion now, because this was always going to be Top Rope Nation Extra on the Patreon page next week, I want you to pitch what you've been working on.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a surprise that even you guys don't know about. That was I nailed down about 30 minutes before we went on the air here. As Papa Shango was casting his spell on my daughter, I got something. So, yes, the next edition of Top Rope Nation Extra, I will be covering the history of the Elimination Chamber match, and I will be joined by a special guest.
Oh,
and it is,
from
of
across
course,
the pond?
Yes, it is, of course, Liam O'Rourke, because
Yes.
I wanted to record in the afternoon.
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to record in the afternoon, and I was thinking to myself, okay, got to record in the afternoon, and who at the drop of a hat on like 5 days notice would be like, hey, could you talk about like all the chamber matches by any chance? And he's like, I was like, could you do this? And he's like, some of the more recent ones, I don't really give a shit about. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't either. I didn't even bother rewatching those. But so Liam's going to join me, and we're going to talk about the history of that match and, just its different incarnations. Specifically, something I wanted to ask you guys about, and Liam and I are going to revisit this question as well, is the Elimination Chamber's inclusion on the road to WrestleMania. Do you like that? Or does it just sort of muddy the waters and sort of prevent you from promoting your WrestleMania main event, when you want to? Like you think about it, it's like, oh, well, we got to do Elimination Chamber, so we can't make the main event known now. I think it's kind of become a detriment, honestly, on the road to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I certainly think they use it as a way to figure out what the hell they want to do at WrestleMania when they don't have a clue. And not only that, but like it just kind of weakens the importance of the Royal Rumble. It's like, one man gets the shot at the main event at WrestleMania, except for the 6 other dudes that are going to get a shot at the main event at WrestleMania a month later.
Yeah, I think it makes no sense to do it right after the Royal Rumble, this premiere match. It's all about WrestleMania. To me, I would move it to like early summer and have it have SummerSlam ramifications. That would make more sense rather than packing this all in right there.
Yeah, and we'll go through some of the various faux pas that I think have hurt the match. It's a match that, my God, like gets rated pretty highly by the tastemakers. And I got to say, I haven't watched these. They blend together a lot. Yes. And there's not a lot of standouts. Like, it's funny. Like I brought this subject to you guys and you guys are like, my God, I can't think of like many standout moments from the Chamber. I will reveal my Mount Rushmore of Chamber matches on that show. I think there's 4 really solid ones. Is there any Chamber matches that you guys in particularly love?
Love's a strong word, but I mean, as far as memorable goes, it's really the first one for me. That's damn near it.
The first one, the one that Kofi was in 2019, that Brian won, but Kofi was, going up the card a little bit. And I think those 2 for me. But I mean, I agree with,
Along that same lines is Daniel Bryan trying to win in 14 when Randy Orton was the champ going into WrestleMania 30. I remember watching that, being desperate for Daniel Bryan to win there.
Yeah.
I watched those back to back and they are very similar. Good point. Yes. I intentionally, like, I'm very weird in that, like, I'll do all this reading where like the breakdowns of the match to get a feel for what everyone said and then watch them. And so like, cause I don't like to watch them. I like to watch things in a weird order. Like I want to, like, it's like, okay, these 2 might be kind of viewed similarly. I want to watch these 2 cut apart just so I could do a good compare contrast. And yeah, 2014 and 2019 were quite similar. And I agree with this comment in the chat. And I'm sure you guys would as well. Elimination Chamber, like Hell in a Cell, should not be an event. Though these themed pay-per-views.
Yeah, I liked how when they started it, it was all about like topping Hell in a Cell. When Bischoff, created the match, that they were going to do something on Raw that could top SmackDown, right? Wasn't that the deal? Yeah.
Yes. It was great.
I like that. You bring it up out of nowhere like that. It's so much more impactful, just like Hell in a Cell, like Ryan said in the chat. If you can bring that out to cap off a feud rather than just doing the match because it's time for the pay-per-view, it's so much better. Yeah.
I actually disagree. I think this is almost, an argument could be made for Money in the Bank, but as far as gimmick matches go, having their own event, this is, to me, is very similar to the Royal Rumble. It just shouldn't be in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. I could see it, what if it led into SummerSlam to determine the main event of that show? It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, you can't use it like Hell in a Cell where it's there to be the grand finale of a feud, because when are you going to have a feud including 6 people?
I think the key is you have to have 6 over people. And that's going to be a big talking point that I'll have during the show. I think the ones that suffer, and for me, that I just lose interest in before they even start is it's like, oh, Jesus. Like, this guy's in this. Like, this guy, no chance. Like, I feel like Chris Jericho at Slamboree 98 when Johnny Swinger comes out. 0% chance of winning. There's 3 people who got that reference, but that's okay. But yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I liked when it was used, at least in the early years from 2002. And some of these, your mileage will vary on some of them, but they used it when they had 6 over people and ready to do it. I hate when it's Money in the Bank. It's let's just do random qualifying matches. Cause like Ryan said, it's that time of year and we have to have 6 people. If you don't have 6 people ready for that match, it's not going to work, in my opinion. Or at least to the fullest, you're not going to get max value out of it. I do think, to your point, Justin, the counter is, okay, well, how hard is it to get 6 guys ready? The match is coming. It's your fucking promotion. It's not like this is a surprise. Oh my God, it's, But yes, Santino wasn't a chamber match. And my God, it was in 2012. I see Ryan Gorman said, didn't Santino almost win a chamber with Bryan as champ? Or am I having a fever dream? No. That was in 2012. The first 20 minutes of that match are so boring. And then, yes, the crowd wakes up for a Bryan Santino closing stretch.
Yeah. So hey man, that's a great sell for the Patreon page that you and award-winning author Liam O'Rourke returning to the program, because you guys did that 90-minute look at the history of the Royal Rumble match a few weeks ago. That was so good. If you guys didn't hear that over on Patreon, you're missing out. I'm sure this one's going to be very good too. So shout out to Liam of Squared Circle Gazette Radio, by the way, for coming on Top Rope Nation yet again. Because, that is a huge boon for our show.
Yeah, and we'll be recording Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. We haven't decided yet, but I just thought about it. All these notes. I'm like, me just dictating this sounds bad. Me just reading. Hey. I was like, I need to take a breath. I needed someone to bounce off of. I need someone to say, "Hey, Triple H sucks, right?" Yes.
I'll look forward to it. I love those shows when I just simply edit it and I can actually be a listener and sit back and listen to it. Every time you and Liam get together, whether it's on Squared Circle Gazette or here for Top Rope Nation, it's awesome. I'll post a teaser on our main feed next week, which will be before Elimination Chamber, obviously, where you guys, anyone on the main feed, can hear the first 15 minutes or so of that show. I'm sure they'll go 60, 90 minutes, maybe longer. So if you want to hear the whole thing, join the Patreon page.
I don't know how long this. I told Liam it won't be that long. It won't be that long.
Yeah, right.
Unless it's real fun. So, but and then next week I'm very excited too. Also, I'm making my debut on the Torch. Hopefully, I didn't offend Frank with my talk earlier. We love the Torch here, Frank. We love you too. You're I think one of the all-time great competitors in the history of pro wrestling, Frank Pettiati, and I'm going to be on his show. Talking about Super Bowl 2.
Yes. Pro Wrestling Torch VIP, Then and Now show with Frank Pettiani. He's a patron of the show. If you join the Torch VIP, you can hear that. Justin's going to be on an upcoming episode as well. I've been on it before last summer looking at Money in the Bank 2011. Frank's an awesome guy. That was a lot of fun. Looking forward to listening to that one. We reviewed Super Brawl 2, one of our earliest Top Rope Nation classics. Also on Patreon, one of our almost 80 bonus podcasts you can only hear on Patreon. So, guys, join up. New content dropping practically every week. Next week, we got that with Liam and Kyle. And then, I guess it'll be the week after that. We'll be recording February's Top Rope Nation Classics. The vote on Patreon just ended. It was one of the closest votes we've ever had. We will be doing Chi-Town Rumble 1989. Should be fun.
Yes. Very excited to go back to the National Wrestling Alliance in 1989. Although, I was thinking offhand, I can't remember a ton of the undercard matches on that show. I know Luger wrestles Barry for the U.S. title.
The undercard is not great. I looked it up.
And then I
couldn't remember either.
And then there's the new Midnight Express against the original Midnight with the 6-man with Cornette and Heyman working, but I think Randy Rose quits and Jack Victory has to work under a mask because it's 1989 in the NWA. And when you need a masked man, you always call Jack Victory.
But of course, you do get this legendary Flair Steamboat match. You get Dave Meltzer in the front row, just going absolutely nuts on screen with legendary Chicago Bears center Brad Meester. Yeah. So, yeah, it's one to watch for sure. Or no, why did I say Brad Meester? He went to UNI. What's his name? Why am I drawing a blank here?
Brad Muster.
Brad Muster. Yeah, Brad Meester.
Don't you dare cut that out, Ryan Drosty.
Don't
you dare cut that out.
I'm definitely keeping that in.
The 1988 Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah.
My God, we're under attack upstairs. I don't know what the heck it got in the washing machine. It sounds like shoes or something.
It's rattling back and forth.
I hope no one's picking that up. My God, I feel the earth is about to end. Oh, good. Okay. Well, never mind. Take that out.
No. Yeah, but Dave Meltzer next to a Chicago Bears player. And,
he was with them.
Yeah.
They went together. They
Front
were
row,
buddies.
dead center.
Yeah. It's just funny that, they introduced Muster on the telecast and who's sitting right next to him? Dave.
Yeah.
Uncle Dave.
Tim in the chat calls himself a Bears fan. Brad Muster and Brad Meester are almost the same name. And Brad Meester went to my alma mater. Tim Jensen, your alma mater as well. Yes. But yeah, it's cool. That's the UIC Pavilion, wasn't that show?
Yes.
Illinois, Chicago. Yeah. So it's
the Horizon League. I was just
Yes.
at another Horizon League venue the other week, Cleveland State for AEW.
Yeah. So yeah, they were not at the Rosemont Horizon. They were at the slightly smaller venue in Chicago. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Again, dropping on Patreon. Stay tuned for that. We'll be back next Saturday with our look at WWE Elimination Chamber from Saudi Arabia. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Episode 239 of the flagship Top Rope Nation. Justin, hope you feel better, and hopefully I get to see you Saturday night.
Fingers crossed, buddy.
Get some rest. Kyle, I hope your laundry machine's all right up there, buddy.
I apologize to the viewers tonight. I was kind of like moving around with the camera. And like I was getting real big at times. And then I don't know what the hell was going on tonight, man.
Justin's face right now.
Jesus.
All right,
Humble
guys.
brag.
Join the Facebook group. Link in the podcast description as well. Join us next Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite watch along on the Playback app. We'll see you all next time. Have a great weekend. Take care.
You will